sat frozen at that polished mahogany table, watching my mother's perfectly painted lips curve into a smile I'd seen 1,000 times before. Evelyn Monroe, my mother, held the will like a trophy, her manicured fingers tracing each line as she read aloud. Everything went to Ryan, the house where Dad taught me to fix clocks, the savings account I'd helped build during Dad's cancer treatments, even the antique shop, Dad's pride and joy, the place where I'd spent every weekend learning his craft while Ryan was off chasing his dreams. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I could see it in his eyes, pity mixed with professional detachment. He knew this was wrong, but lawyers don't rewrite wills. They just read them. "Maybe now you'll learn gratitude, Claire," Mom said, folding the document neatly. Her voice was soft, almost kind, which made it worse somehow. Ryan sat across from me, and when our eyes met, he gave me this pitying grin, like I was a child who just learned Santa wasn't real. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet break, like the sound of old thread finally giving way. The drive home felt endless. Rain hammered against my windshield, and I kept replaying Mom's words. Ungrateful. The word stuck in my throat like broken glass. I was 38 years old, and for the past 3 years, I'd put my entire life on pause. No promotions, no vacations, no dating. Just me, Dad, and his cancer treatments. Where was Ryan during the chemo appointments? Building his career in Seattle. Where was Mom? Hosting charity luncheons and collecting compliments about her generosity. And where was I? Holding Dad's hand at 3 in the morning when the pain got too bad for sleeping. I pulled into my apartment parking lot and just sat there, engine off, listening to the rain. Dad's favorite antique watch, the one with the cracked face he'd promised to fix with me, was now listed under Ryan's name. Not because Ryan wanted it. 'Cause Mom wanted me to know my place. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "Sorry, sis. You know how Mom is." I deleted it without responding. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dad's last words to me, whispered in that hospital room 3 months ago. "Look beneath the surface, Claire. Always look beneath." At the time I thought he meant life in general. Some philosophical wisdom about seeing past people's facades. But maybe he meant something else. I got up at 2 in the morning and started going through the boxes I'd taken from Dad's study. Mom had been so eager to clear out his things, donating most of it before the funeral flowers had wilted. But I'd saved a few boxes. Papers, old receipts, nothing important. Or so I'd thought. Beneath a stack of business invoices, I found an envelope. Cream-colored, thick paper, the expensive kind Dad used for important documents. My name was written across the front in his familiar handwriting. "For Claire." My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a letter, handwritten, dated 2 years before his death. "If you're reading this, they've already taken what's mine. But they won't win. Look beneath the surface." And beneath the letter, a small brass key and an address downtown. The address led me to a narrow building on 4th Street, sandwiched between a coffee shop and a bookstore. I'd driven past it 100 times without noticing. The directory in the lobby listed businesses, accountants, therapists, and a graphic designer on the 3rd floor. Room 204 wasn't listed. I climbed the stairs slowly, my heart pounding. The hallway smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner. Room 204 was at the end, its door unmarked except for the number. I tried the handle, locked of course. The brass key felt heavy in my palm. I'd been carrying it for 2 days, afraid to use it, afraid of what I might find. Or not find. What if this was just Dad's way of giving me closure? What if the room was empty? I slid the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, like it had been waiting. The office was small and dusty. Cobwebs stretched across the corners, and the air tasted stale. But there, against the far wall, stood a metal filing cabinet. 4 drawers, each one locked. The brass key fit those locks too. The first drawer held folders, dozens of them, organized by year and labeled in Dad's neat handwriting. Account statements, property deeds, business contracts. And right in front, marked with a red tab, Monroe Family Trust, confidential. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Inside was a notarized document with official stamps and signatures covering the bottom. It established a private trust, created 15 years ago, with one listed beneficiary. Claire Elizabeth Monroe. Me. The trust held assets separate from Dad's will, a business account, bonds, and investment properties. Numbers swam before my eyes. This wasn't pocket change. This was real money. Money Dad had quietly set aside for years. But as I flipped through the account statements, my stomach dropped. The most recent ones showed balance after balance of zero. Transferred. Withdrawn. Emptied. Someone had drained every account. And according to the transaction records, those transfers happened after Dad died, signed with authorization forms I'd never seen before. I photographed every page with trembling fingers, my mind racing. Dad had planned for this. He'd known what Mom would do. I took the documents to Marcus Webb, a lawyer friend from college who owed me a favor. We sat in his cramped office while he reviewed the files, his expression growing darker with each page. Finally he looked up, his jaw tight. Claire, these accounts were systematically drained. Someone moved the funds within weeks of your father's death. He turned his laptop toward me, showing a digital trail of transactions. Look at the signatures on the authorization forms. I leaned closer. The handwriting was supposed to be Dad's, but the loops were too round and the pressure too light. I'd helped Dad with paperwork for years. This wasn't his signature. That's forgery, Marcus said quietly. But there's more. The person who authorized these transfers had legal power of attorney over your father's affairs. He pulled up another document. Your mother. The transfers lead directly to accounts in her name. My chest felt tight. Can we prove it? We can try. But Claire, this is your mother. Are you sure you want to go down this road? I thought about Ryan's pitying smile. About Mom calling me ungrateful. About 3 years of my life were spent caring for a father who'd loved me enough to plan for this exact betrayal. I'm sure. Mom invited me to dinner 3 days later. For closure, she said on the phone, her voice dripping with false warmth. I accepted because I needed to see her, to look her in the eyes and see if there was any guilt hiding there. The house looked the same. The house I'd grown up in, where Dad and I had fixed the porch swing together, where I'd learned to read in the window seat of his study. Now it felt like a museum of lies. Mom served her famous roasted chicken, the one she made for Sunday dinners when she wanted to prove she was a good mother. Ryan was there too, dressed in a new suit I suspected came from Dad's money. We should move forward as a family, Mom said, pouring wine. Your father wouldn't want us divided over money. I bit my tongue. Ryan nodded along like a puppet. Then Ryan mentioned something about renovating the shop's second property. Froze. Second property. He glanced at Mom nervously. She recovered quickly. Just some storage space, dear. Nothing important. But I saw the flash of panic in her eyes. And I knew there was more they were hiding. I found the address in Ryan's social media photos. An antique store across town with a familiar sign. Monroe Antiques. But the name beneath it read Ryan's Antiques. My father's store. Ryan's name. I drove there the next morning. The shop looked exactly like Dad's old place, right down to the window displays. Inside, customers browsed shelves filled with clocks, furniture, and vintage jewelry. And there, in the center display case, sat Dad's most prized possession. A 19th century pocket watch he'd spent years restoring. The one he'd promised would be mine. A young clerk told me it sold yesterday. I asked who authorized the sale. He checked the computer. Evelyn Monroe. She's the owner on record. My hands clenched into fists. Can I see the sales receipt? She hesitated, then printed it. The buyer's name, address, and signature were all there. But what made my blood run cold was the authorization signature at the bottom, supposedly Dad's, approving the sale. Dated 3 months after he died. I photographed the receipt and walked out before my rage could spill over. The buyer was an elderly man named George Hartley. I found his address through public records and showed up unannounced, my heart pounding. He answered the door in a cardigan, confused but kind. "I'm so sorry to bother you," I said. "But you recently bought a pocket watch from Monroe Antiques. That watch belonged to my late father." His expression softened. "Come in, dear." He showed me the watch, now displayed in his living room. It was even more beautiful than I remembered. He told me he'd paid top dollar for it, $15,000, because he knew its history. "Do you still have the paperwork?" Yes. He retrieved the file. The receipt showed the same forged signature I'd seen earlier. Dad's name, but not his handwriting. Mr. Hartley had no idea he'd bought stolen property. He just loved antiques and trusted the shop's reputation. "Would you be willing to testify about this if needed?" I asked carefully. He studied my face. "If your father was cheated, then yes. Absolutely." I left with copies of everything, my case building piece by piece. Marcus reviewed the new evidence in his office, spreading documents across his desk like puzzle pieces. "This is good, Claire. Really good. But we need to be strategic. Your mother has resources and reputation. If we move too fast, she'll cover her tracks. So what do? We build quietly. Document everything. Let them commit fully before we strike." He leaned back in his chair. "Right now they think you've given up. Let them believe it." It went against every instinct. I wanted to scream, to confront Mom with the evidence, to watch her face crumble. But Marcus was right. Patience was the weapon here. "We'll file a formal claim against the trust through probate court. Once we do, they won't be able to move any more assets without court approval. But until then, I wait," I finished. He nodded. "You wait. And you watch them dig themselves deeper." I signed the power of attorney documents, officially authorizing Marcus to act on my behalf. The paper trail was beginning. Mom called 2 days later, her voice sharp. "What are you doing, Claire? I received a letter from your lawyer about the trust. This obsession needs to stop." I stayed calm. "I just want what Dad intended, Mom. Your father intended for Ryan to have the business. You were never interested in antiques." Her voice rose, losing that false sweetness. "You're going to tear this family apart over money you didn't even know existed." Ryan grabbed the phone. "You're crazy, Claire. Seriously. Just let it go." I could hear Mom in the background coaching him. "Tell her she's being selfish." "You're being selfish," Ryan repeated dutifully. I hit record on my phone's voice memo app and let them talk. Every accusation, every dismissal, every attempt to gaslight me, all saved as evidence. When they finally ran out of steam, I spoke quietly. "I'm not stopping." I hung up before they could respond. Marcus filed for a formal audit of the trust through probate court. The notice arrived at Mom's house on a Tuesday morning. I wasn't there, but Ryan told me later she'd screamed so loud the neighbors heard. She tried to withdraw the remaining trust funds that afternoon, nearly $50,000 sitting in a transition account. The bank blocked the transfer. Marcus had moved fast, getting a temporary restraining order on all trust assets pending investigation. Mom called me, her voice shaking with rage. "How dare you freeze my accounts?" "They're not your accounts," I said calmly. "They never were. I'm your mother. And Dad was my father. Funny how you only remember family when it benefits you." She hung up. I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, feeling that strange mix of power and grief. This was really happening. Mom showed up at my apartment 3 days later, mascara running, looking smaller somehow. She'd never been good at genuine emotion, but this performance was Oscar-worthy. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing about how wrong she'd been, how grief had clouded her judgment. "Let's fix this as a family," she whispered. "Just drop the legal action. We'll split everything fairly. Please, Claire. I can't lose you too." For a moment, just a moment, I almost believed her. This was my mother. The woman who'd braided my hair before school, who'd taught me to bake cookies, who'd held me when my first boyfriend broke my heart. Then her phone rang. She ignored it, but it rang again. And again. "You should answer that," I said quietly. She stepped into my bedroom. I followed silently, standing just outside the door. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Ryan." "No, she's falling for it. Just give me another day." Of course I'm not apologizing for real. Once she drops the case, we'll. Cleared my throat. Mom spun around, her face going white. "Get out," I said. She tried to salvage it, reaching for me, but I stepped back. "Out. Now." After she left, I sat on my couch and cried. Not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd never actually had. Marcus called me into his office with news. His assistant had been digging through the trust documents, comparing signatures and dates. She'd found something big. "Look at these amendments," Marcus said, spreading 3 documents across his desk. Each one changed beneficiary terms, removed Claire's name, and added Ryan's authority. "They're dated after your father's death." I leaned closer. The signatures were all slightly different, attempts to mimic Dad's handwriting, each one improving on the last. Like someone had been practicing. "This is felony fraud," Marcus said. "Your mother didn't just steal from the trust. She tried to rewrite its entire legal structure. And these amendments were filed with the county clerk's office, making them official documents. Can we prove she forged them?" He smiled. "We already did. I sent copies to a forensic document examiner. She compared them to your father's actual signatures on his medical records and earlier legal documents. The report came back this morning. Different pen pressure, different stroke patterns, different everything. So what happens now? Now we go to court. And Claire, this isn't just about money anymore. This is criminal." I thought about Mom's fake tears, her careful manipulation. She'd counted on me being too weak to fight back. She'd counted wrong. The official court summons arrived at Mom's house on a Friday afternoon. Ryan called me within an hour, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You're destroying your own family," he yelled. "Mom's sick over this. How can you be so cruel?" "I learned from the best," I said, borrowing Mom's words back to her. Mom grabbed the phone. "This is it, Claire. You go through with this, and you're dead to me." Do you hear me?" "I hear you." "Did you hear Dad when he begged you not to let Ryan sell his store?" Silence. "Yeah. I know about that too." She hung up. That evening, I received dozens of texts from extended family. Aunt Patricia called me money-hungry. Cousin James said I was tearing the family apart. Uncle Robert blocked me entirely. They all sided with Mom because Mom knew how to play victim. She'd spent years building her reputation. The charitable widow, the devoted mother, the pillar of the community. None of them asked for my side of the story. Marcus texted me. "They're panicking." That's good. Panicked people make mistakes. The family divide got worse. Mom hosted a gathering at her house. Everyone was invited except me. I saw the photos on Facebook. Ryan's kids playing in the yard, aunts and uncles toasting with wine, and Mom in the center looking brave and wounded. The caption read, "Family stands together through trials. Some people value money over love. We know the difference." I showed Marcus. He shook his head. "Ignore it. We've got something better." He pulled out a new document. "Remember that clause in the original trust about asset protection? I had our legal team analyze it. If any trust assets are misused, embezzled, or fraudulently transferred, there's a reversionary clause. In English, please." He grinned. "If the trust is violated, everything, every single asset, property, and account, reverts to the original beneficiary. Including anything purchased with trust funds." My eyes widened. The antique shop. The antique shop. The investment accounts Ryan's been living off. The vacation home in Colorado your mother bought last year. All of it bought with your father's money. All of it legally yours if we can prove fraud. Can we? Claire, we already have. The documents are solid. The forensics are solid. We're not trying to prove fraud anymore. We're just waiting for the judge to make it official. For the first time in months I felt something like hope. The hearing was set for June 15th. I didn't sleep the night before. I kept imagining walking into that courtroom, seeing Mom's face, and wondering if she'd finally show remorse or if the mask would stay on until the very end. Marcus met me outside the courthouse, carrying 2 briefcases full of evidence. "Are you ready?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Mom arrived in a tailored suit and pearls, looking every inch the grieving widow. Ryan walked beside her, wearing confidence like armor. Their lawyer was some hotshot from downtown, the kind who charges by the minute. We filed into the courtroom. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, took her seat and opened the file. She read silently for what felt like hours. Then she looked up directly at Mom. "Mrs. Monroe, these documents show repeated instances of forged signatures on legal trust amendments. Can you explain?" Mom's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client." "I'm asking Mrs. Monroe," the judge interrupted. Mom's voice came out small and shaky. "There must be some mistake, Your Honor. I would never. These are certified forensic reports from 3 independent examiners," the judge said, her voice cooling. "All 3 confirm these signatures are forgeries." The courtroom went silent. Ryan shifted in his seat. Mom's perfect composure cracked just slightly, a tremor in her hands, a tightness around her mouth. The judge continued reading, her expression hardening with each page. "It appears the defendant not only forged trust amendments but also engaged in systematic asset transfers totaling over $300,000. Mrs. Monroe, these are serious criminal allegations." Mom's lawyer leaned over, whispering urgently. Mom shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. Real ones this time, I thought. Not the performance kind. The terrified kind. "Your Honor," her lawyer tried again. "My client acted under significant emotional distress following her husband's death. She believed she was entitled to." "Entitled?" The judge's eyebrows rose. "Mr. Foster, your client forged legal documents and stole from a protected trust. Emotional distress isn't a defense for fraud." People in the gallery started whispering. A reporter in the back row typed frantically on her phone. This was bigger than I'd expected. Bigger than family drama. This had real legal consequences. The judge flipped to another page. The original trust document clearly names Claire Monroe as sole beneficiary. Every amendment removing her name was filed after Mr. Monroe's death and bears forged signatures. She looked at Mom again. "Did you forge these documents, Mrs. Monroe?" Mom's voice barely worked. I don't. Yes or no?" Silence. Then barely audible. "Yes." The courtroom erupted in gasps. The judge banged her gavel. "Order." The room fell silent again. She looked down at Mom with something between disappointment and anger. "Mrs. Monroe, I'm declaring the amended will null and void. The original trust document stands. All assets will be restored to Claire Monroe immediately." Ryan jumped to his feet. "That's not fair. My mother." "Sit down, Mr. Monroe, or I'll hold you in contempt." The judge's voice could have cut glass. "Furthermore, I'm ordering a full criminal investigation into these forgeries. The district attorney's office will be notified." Mom's face went ghost white. Criminal investigation meant charges. Charges meant trial. Trial meant prison. Her lawyer tried one last time. "Your Honor, perhaps we could discuss restitution instead of." "Your client committed multiple felonies, Mr. Foster. This court doesn't negotiate with criminals." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Webb, please submit a full accounting of misappropriated assets. The court will ensure complete restoration." Marcus nodded, professional, but I could see the hint of a smile. "Thank you, Your Honor." The gavel came down again. "This hearing is adjourned." Mom sat frozen. Ryan stared at the table. Their lawyer gathered his papers quickly, already distancing himself. And I just breathed. Outside the courtroom, chaos erupted. Reporters swarmed Mom, shouting questions about fraud and stolen inheritance. She tried to push through them, but they followed her to the parking lot. Ryan grabbed her arm, pulling her toward their car. "Mom, what do we do?" I heard him ask. "Shut up," she hissed. "Just shut up and get in the car." They sped away, leaving their lawyer standing on the courthouse steps looking annoyed. He approached Marcus. "My client would like to discuss settlement terms." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "Your client just admitted to fraud in open court. We're past settlements. She's willing to return everything. She doesn't have a choice. The judge already ordered it." Marcus closed his briefcase. "Tell Mrs. Monroe we'll see her at the asset hearing. And possibly at her criminal trial." The lawyer walked away without another word. I stood there watching cars pull out of the parking lot, feeling strangely empty. This was supposed to feel like victory. Instead, it felt like the end of something I'd been holding onto too tightly, the hope that my mother might actually love me. Marcus touched my shoulder. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Is it always like this?" "Like what?" "Winning but feeling like you lost something anyway." He nodded. "Yeah, sometimes justice hurts. But that doesn't make it wrong." A week later, Mom called. No anger this time. Just desperation. "Claire, please. We need to talk. Can we settle this privately? I'll give everything back, I promise. We can rebuild our relationship. Like you rebuilt Dad's trust in you." "Yes." Her voice cracked. "I made mistakes. I know that. But I'm still your mother. Don't I deserve forgiveness?" I thought about Dad's letter. About the years he'd spent protecting me from her, even after death. About Ryan's pitying smile and Mom's word. "Ungrateful. You don't get to ask for forgiveness and keep what you stole," I said quietly. "Dad trusted me to finish what he started. That's exactly what I'm doing." "So that's it. You're just going to destroy me." "No, Mom. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone sees it." She hung up. That was the last time we spoke. The asset transfer took 6 weeks. Every account, every property, every piece of furniture bought with trust money, all returned to my name. Mom's lawyer tried to argue that some purchases were legitimate, but Marcus shut that down with bank records showing the exact trust account numbers used for each transaction. The Colorado vacation home, the antique shop, the investment portfolios Ryan had been living off. Even Mom's car, purchased with trust funds 3 months after Dad died. All mine now. The court also ordered Mom to repay the $50,000 she'd already spent, money that couldn't be recovered from specific purchases. She had 90 days to pay or face additional penalties. Ryan's accounts were frozen too. He'd been listed as co-owner on several trust-funded investments, making him complicit in the fraud. His lawyer tried to claim ignorance, but text messages between him and Mom proved he'd known exactly what they were doing. Marcus handed me a folder in his office. "This is everything. Property deeds, account numbers, and investment statements. It's all yours now, Claire." I stared at the folder. "I didn't want it like this." "I know. But your father did. He wanted you protected." The judge's assistant called 2 days later. "Ms. Monroe, Judge Harrison asked me to pass something along. Your father left a sealed letter in our custody, to be released after the trust matter was resolved." My heart stopped. "Another letter. It's marked for your eyes only. You can pick it up anytime." I drove to the courthouse that afternoon. The clerk handed me a manila envelope, thick and official. I sat in my car to read it. Dad's handwriting, dated 5 years ago. "Claire, if you're reading this, you fought the battle I couldn't. I knew Evelyn would try to take everything. I knew Ryan would help her. What I didn't know was whether you'd be strong enough to stop them. Now I do. You found the office. You found the trust. You did what I hoped but could never force. I planned this safeguard because I loved you enough to protect you from your own family. You're stronger than all of them. Never forget that. Love always, Dad." I sat there crying in the courthouse parking lot, clutching the letter like a lifeline. He'd known. He'd known everything. And he'd trusted me to see it through. 6 months passed. The criminal investigation concluded with fraud charges against Mom. She pleaded guilty to avoid trial, receiving 2 years probation and a permanent mark on her record. Ryan wasn't charged criminally, but he lost everything. The business, the investments, his reputation. Mom's mansion went into foreclosure. The charity boards asked her to resign. Her friends stopped calling. She'd built her entire life on image and money, and when both disappeared, there was nothing left. Then one Tuesday morning she showed up at my new shop, the antique store I'd reopened under Dad's original name. She looked years older, thinner, wearing clothes I recognized from before. Clearance rack items. Not designer. The bell chimed as she entered. I was behind the counter, cataloging inventory. I didn't stand up. "Claire," she said, her voice trembling. "Please. I have nowhere else to go." I studied her face. No makeup. No pearls. Just my mother, finally stripped of her armor. "You taught me to stand on my own," I said quietly. "Remember? When you took Dad's will and told me I needed to learn gratitude? Well, I learned. I learned exactly what you taught me. I'm sorry." "No. You're desperate. There's a difference." She stood there shaking. Part of me, the little girl who'd once loved her, wanted to help. But that little girl had died in a lawyer's office months ago, listening to her mother call her ungrateful. "Dad left me a letter," I said. "He knew you'd do this. He knew exactly who you were. And he trusted me to be stronger than your manipulation. Please. You have 2 choices. You can leave now with whatever dignity you have left. Or I can call the police and tell them you're violating the restraining order Marcus filed." Held up my phone. "Your choice." She stared at me, realizing I wasn't bluffing. Then she turned and walked out. The bell chimed again as the door closed. I locked it behind her. The same brass key Dad had left me, now securing a life I'd built entirely on my own terms. Through the window, I watched her walk away, getting smaller with each step until she disappeared around the corner. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Asset transfer complete. Everything's officially yours. Congratulations." I looked around the shop. Dad's clocks ticking on every wall. His pocket watch restored and displayed in the place of honor. His dream alive again. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. About honoring the father who'd loved me enough to plan for the worst while hoping for the best. I made coffee, turned on Dad's favorite jazz record and got back to work. The life I'd fought for was finally, completely mine.